Trump has set a firm deadline for Iran by 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Iran must reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face devastating consequences. The strait is one of the world's most critical shipping lanes, carrying roughly a fifth of global oil supplies. Traffic there has been halted amidst ongoing tensions, driving up energy prices and raising concerns for economies everywhere. Trump has warned that failure to comply will bring immediate strikes on Iran's power plants, bridges and other critical infrastructure. He has described the potential action in stark terms, stating that without an agreement, a whole civilization will die tonight and that Iran would be living in hell. This is the latest in a series of his ultimatums, with earlier deadlines extended several times as talks continued. Iran has so far showed no sign of backing down, insisting on conditions of its own. As the clock ticks, the world watches to see whether diplomacy can prevail or if military escalation will follow. The stakes could not be higher for regional stability, for energy markets, and for the risk of a wider conflict. Let's open up this conversation on the telecast. With me is Ambassador Veena Sikri. Ambassador, how do you read the situation? Because just a while ago, while Trump has doubled down on Iran and reminded them once again of the deadline that is going to elapse in just a few hours, he's also hinted at a possible negotiation with what he calls as a more moderate, less radicalized leadership, by way of which there are back-channel talks that are also taking place. Do you think there is somehow once again a possibility for the Trump administration, for US President himself, to once again delay this onslaught that he continues to threaten Iran of?
Well, I think the President of the USA has hinted several times at such possibilities, but each time it has been rejected completely by Iran. And even today, a few minutes ago, maybe 20 minutes or half an hour ago, the Iranian government once again said that they are breaking off all contacts with the US envoys and other emissaries on any kind of negotiation. So they have shut down the possibility of any further negotiations, and they seem to be now doing two parallel lines of activity. One is that on all the bridges, on all the power plants, they have asked their own people to come and surround them. We saw visuals of a bridge in somewhere in Iran where the people had covered the bridge and they were carrying a flag, a huge flag of Iran, maybe 200, 300 feet. And there were children, young girls, young children under the flag carrying placards. So that is one approach. And second, we saw near a power plant, a musician playing strumming his instrument. And again, to show that the people are with the regime of Iran. So it is a very, very difficult time to say that any kind of negotiations are possible. I think that President Trump is promising some kind of Armageddon after 20 hours Eastern Standard Time, which should be like early in the morning Indian time.
Yeah.
And he said within 4 hours, within 4 hours, Iran will be put back to the Stone Ages. Now, what does it mean? Does it mean that there will be a tactical nuclear missile which is used? Does it mean that, we heard earlier in the day about attacks on Kharg Island? Will there be boots on the ground for taking over of Kharg Island? We know that within America, the army chief, General Randy George, was forced to resign because he opposed the question of boots on the ground. And he said, no, he was not going to support boots on the ground. So I think that, this is the whole problem, that what is the situation within the USA? The support for the Iran war is rapidly waning, and there are a lot of people even within the Republican Party who no longer support the Iran war. So what kind of steps is the US planning to take to bring it to succumb? I don't think that that's going to happen very soon.
Okay. All right. I also have with me Pramit Pal Chaudhary. Pramit, let's hear it from you, your perspective, when there has been an appeal that has been made by the Iranian regime. There have been people who have come out in large numbers in support of their administration, building those human chains, human shields, as we saw on with those pictures that were playing out on our screen just a while ago. And this is contrary to the narrative that has been built by the West, by Israel, by United States of America, that the people are extremely unhappy and frustrated by the regime. We did see that there was an escalation. There were widespread protests that had taken place just a few months ago. But at this time, in a situation where the very identity of Iran is at peril, people are coming out in support of the regime. People are coming out in support of their government. What does this indicate?
Well, it's been pretty obvious for a while that regime change is not taking place. So whatever the public opinion may be, and I think it's largely the youth of Iran have been particularly unhappy with the regime over many other issues. But yes, the evidence seems to indicate that, especially in the nature of the attacks that are taking place, there's no willingness to support either Israel or the US in what they're doing among the general public in Iran, which is, I think, not a surprise. So regime change is not taking place, but that has more to do with the resilience of the regime itself. It has been preparing for this conflict for a while. I know that Iranian officials have told Indians we're ready for a 90-day war. And they have built in a lot of extra capacity in terms of leadership. So, for example, Hezbollah and the IRGC have, for each commander they have supposedly 4 deputies now appointed, so that even if they lose one, the chain of command is maintained. So that the regime change definitely not taking place. And I don't think Trump seriously believes that anymore himself. What I think, my impression is he's looking for an off-ramp. He's occasionally blamed the Europeans and other countries for not getting involved. He's then talked about he's issued a set of demands from the Iranians. And even now, he sort of alternates between bizarre threats or extreme threats and then saying that perhaps we can still make a deal on this.
Yeah.
So he's looking for an off-ramp, but he needs something that gives him the ability to go home and say, I have scored a victory. And that is proving very difficult because the gap between his demands and what Iran is prepared to accept is enormous.
Absolutely. I have with me Peter Cardillo. He's the chief market economist, Spartan Capital Securities. He's joining me from New York. Peter, what do you make of the tone and tenor with which the U.S. president deals with Iran, or for that matter, NATO or Japan or Australia, who criticizes and condemns for not coming out in full support for the cause that United States and Israel are fighting for, and particularly when even if he is wanting to strike a resolutory tone with Iran, but when you're going about saying that the whole civilization will die tonight and we will bring Iran to the Stone Ages, would any country with whom a negotiation is being struck, or at least tried to be struck, is really going to come on the table?
No, I don't think so. I think that that's just Trump's rhetoric, and I think he's trying everything in his power to actually end this war. I think that both Israel and the United States somewhat miscalculated the strength of the Iranians. And so I really don't think he's going to do that. I mean, obviously, we heard that Iran has broke off all diplomatic talks. And so that means that this evening, most likely, there will not be any news that would turn the situation around. Now, there could be, at the very least, maybe some sort of a ceasefire agreement that could go into effect maybe in a week or so or something like that, and bring Iran to the negotiating table. That's a possibility, but as the hours go by, that also will likely fade. So I think, yes, Trump is going to take action tonight, but I don't think he's going to, um, send Iran back to the Stone Ages. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to build up. I don't think he's going to bomb all the bridges and all the infrastructures. There's a good possibility, and perhaps the key to this whole thing will be that he might be able to take over Craig Island. And if he does that, that's sort of like a victory for Trump, and obviously would not be good news in terms of energy prices, because as you very well know, they are skyrocketing today, and by tomorrow we could see oil prices go up another 5 or 10%.
So I do want to understand from you how do you perceive this, that there have been a number of threats that have been issued by the Trump administration to take over Craig Island, but there's little that has been done. Yes, there has been yet another strike that has been reported in Craig, but why have these oil facilities not been struck so far by United States?
Well, I think the reason for that is that the administration, and above all, Mr. Trump, knows that that's a very delicate situation. And if something should go wrong, that means oil prices could really skyrocket. They can go as high as $200, $250 per barrel. Nobody wants that. Certainly, Mr. Trump does not want that. The president certainly would risk his whole agenda, because inflation would skyrocket. Interest rates would continue to rise, and the global economy would probably wind up in a severe recession. He knows that. He knows that very well. So I don't think, I think that's one of the reasons why so far there's a lot of talk about it. There's threats about it. And so I think they are going to have to deal with it in a way that would not be detrimental to the oil markets.
Okay. I also have with me Major General J.K. Bansal, and quickly a response from you with regards to, time and again Trump has mentioned that the blockade on Strait of Hormuz needs to be lifted by Iran. But in the larger scheme of things, when you take a look at the vessels that Iran is allowing to pass through the strait, include those from China, Japan, India, Philippines, Iraq, Qatar, Oman. So majority of the countries that have been able to build great diplomatic bilateral relations with Iran are being given a free rein in being able to allowing passage of their commercial vessels. So there only remain a handful of countries, and I mean, which are these countries which are not being allowed to traverse through the strait? So when what Trump means by asking the blockade to be lifted, he is only speaking on behalf of just these handful of nations.
Thank you very much, Megha.
Yes, please go ahead.
So actually, these are the countries, but there's no free movement. Nearly about 20 million barrel of the oil was passed through this Strait of Hormuz, which has been restricted to a large number, and maybe they are allowing with some taxes, as it was mentioned that $1 per barrel they are charging for. Really, what is the status is not known to anybody, but it is not the fully that it is functional. Otherwise, if all these countries are allowed, so then not many of the countries are left. So it may be very restricted movements, not full. Many of the ships or containers are waiting to pass through. So it is just on the basis of some friendly countries they are allowing. And as has been told by, they have passed a bill that they will charge a toll tax here, and declared that ultimately it will be controlled by Oman and Iran, this Strait of Hormuz. So definitely, and as has been told about the Kharg Island, of course, they have bombed earlier also, and they may bomb now, but it will be very difficult to bomb other countries, other part of the countries and infrastructure. And by bombing those infrastructure, in any case, America is not going to degrade the capacity of IRGC to attack the Gulf countries. And in any case, they are not going to open the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
Hormuz.
Okay.
So like this, there is not much of the expectation by these kind of threat, and threat may be just for the purpose of negotiation. It may be, of course, now the Iran has completely rejected it, but maybe some hope may be there for the negotiation.
Okay, all right.
Back to you.
Master Secretary, quickly a response from you with regards to what, the conversation that was happening, the negotiations that were happening in June, which was happening in Geneva, and United States out of nowhere decided to bomb Iran, and the distress that has been created in the last 8 months is something that has then forced Iran to further double down in its demands. And do you think some of them may be unreasonable? For example, demanding that Iran be allowed to charge a transit fee of $2 million per vessel or more passing through the Strait of Hormuz, which is something that was not part of the negotiations previously. Do you think Trump has done more harm than good in attacking Iran first and now doubling down?
No, absolutely. We have to remember that right up to February 27th, negotiations were going on between Iran and USA, mediated by the foreign minister of Oman, and these were taking place in Geneva. And actually, there was a breakthrough in the negotiations, and the foreign minister of Iran was all set to fly to the USA to convey to the American president that Iran has agreed to all the conditions that America was imposing in terms of never having a nuclear weapon, in terms of giving up on all its enriched uranium supplies and all of that. But America ignored that completely, ignored the message from the foreign minister of Oman, and decided to attack Iran on the 28th of February in the middle of successful negotiations. So Iran has not forgotten that, and now they have said quite clearly that they are not going to accept any more negotiations. A few hours ago, they have broken off all talks and all negotiations. They said we're not going to have any more negotiations because the one guarantee they want is that there should be no further possibility of a second such attack by Israel and USA on Iran. You know, that having gone through it on the 28th of February, they now think that America is not sincere about the negotiations, and so they don't want to go through it again. And they have completely said they were accepting some messages from various countries, you know, whether it is Turkey or Egypt or Pakistan, about President Trump's 15-point plan. But this 15-point plan was there even last year after their attack on Iran. So there's no change in America, and Iran just put, we want 1 point, no further attacks, guarantee of no further attacks, which America is not willing to give. So there's a complete standoff on the negotiations. Iran has broken off all contacts on negotiations, and now there's nothing except the Armageddon that America is promising on Iran.
Yeah. Okay. Pramit, quickly a response from you. What has happened in the last 24 hours? You know, there has been, there was a peace plan. This was a 45-day ceasefire that was proposed. In fact, statements came in from Iran as well that they're reviewing this proposal as well. There has finally been a rejection that has been conveyed by US President Donald Trump, calling it that it's a significant development, but there's something that's not acceptable to me. After which Iran has also spoken in a similar tone, completely outrightly rejecting this ceasefire deal, a two-tier ceasefire deal as it is called. So if there is zero trust on United States of America, how do you strike a deal?
Well, the ceasefire, I don't really think was a serious decision because it doesn't really help either side. It just means the war resumes after a period. And it also does not address the economic issue of what happens to the Straits of Hormuz. You have a ceasefire, but does that mean that ships can go through or ships cannot go through? Do they have to have Iranian permission, and so on? And the other issue, of course, is more than the ships, is also the production of oil and gas. Can that be done peacefully? So I didn't think the ceasefire made much sense for either side to accept. But the core demand, the core issue, in my view, it really boils down to who controls the Straits of Hormuz at the end of all this. The Iranians have already passed a domestic law in the Majlis, the Hormuz Management Protocol, which says that only two countries, Oman, which controls the southern shore, and Iran, will have any say on what happens with the Straits of Hormuz, and they will have the right to deny or accept any ship to go get permission to go through the Hormuz and pay a tithe if necessary. That is a core thing that Trump has rejected, because that has been a basis of an American Persian Gulf policy going back to Jimmy Carter's presidency, the so-called Carter Doctrine. And the Iranians, I think, feel that they have already taken the worst that America can do to them, so they can just wait it out, and eventually the Hormuz Straits will become theirs. They're already in de facto control of the Straits. They have veto power over everything. So the Iranians, I think, are reasonably clear. While Israel and Iran are prepared to keep slugging it out for a very long time, the Americans don't have the patience. Trump doesn't have the patience. Price of gas, as the Americans call it, at the pump has risen to $6 a gallon in some states from what original $4. The inflationary impact is only beginning to seep into the economy. We're already seeing polling indicating that not only was the House of Representatives going to be lost in November in midterm to the Republicans, they now have a very good chance of losing the Senate as well. So the support for the war, as you mentioned, has plummeted across almost every group except for a very small hardcore of about 30% of MAGA supporters. But even there, surprisingly, a lot of the MAGA ecosystem, whether it's Joe Rogan and others, are coming out increasingly against the war and saying this is exactly what Trump was supposed to not do, get America involved in a pointless war in the Middle East. So right now, there is no basis for a peace negotiation. It is more about waiting each other out, and we will see, in my view, at least low-level warfare continue between the two sides.
Okay, Peter, quickly a response to me. What, according to you, is the popular sentiment in your country with regards to your president, in terms of actions that he has taken that have been unprecedented, not been consulted with the Congress? Forget about Congress, the NATO nations at this point in time have not been taken into account. And not just that, he has been, reflecting, deranged behavior, if I may call it, acts of hooliganism by way of the language that he has used, and several other things that he has done. Is his popularity waning? And as Pramit was saying, with regards to the midterm elections, is there a chance that the Republicans may lose this time around?
Well, all you have to do is look at the latest polls on President Trump, and you'll see that they've taken a nosedive. So that in itself tells you exactly what the American people think about the war and some other factors, how he handles the economy. But I think, in general, President Trump is somewhat of a particular communicator, in the sense that he can touch the nerve of the American citizen. He tends to spin a patriotic feeling among the American citizens. And so on one hand, you have the forces that are against it. On the other hand, you have the forces that are for the war, because he's depicted Iran, as many other presidents in the past have done also, saying that this regime is evil. Obviously, not the Iranian people, but the regime is evil. And so I think that that point suggests that everyone wants this war to be over with. And the most important factor, right, is the economic part of the war, which, as you've heard, which I said before, and your previous guests also touched on that, gasoline prices here in the States are going through the roof. And that's how can I say this? A criminal crime for the American consumer, because it's hurting their pocketbooks. And so, again, I'm going to close by saying that some resolution is going to come forward. Yeah, there might be some little bit more pain. Will there be total pain for the Iranian peoples? I doubt that very much.
Okay, and quickly, General J.K. Bansal, about the situation that is extremely grim, sensitive. There are a number of Indians who live in Iran. There have been, I think, as per the estimates that have been provided by the Ministry of External Affairs, about 175,000 Indians that have been evacuated, that have been brought back to India from the Gulf region, including in Iran. But there are still many more that are living in Iran still. In a situation that there is a strike by United States of America on Iran, how must India secure and ensure the safety of its citizens?
The safety can only be possible by guiding them properly, because as such, whatever infrastructure has been identified, so those are the infrastructure which will be bombed, but otherwise the residential area or the other places are safe, so they have to be there. The safety that India has tried, many of them has been evacuated through Azerbaijan and Armenia. So India has made efforts. As such, there are a lot of people are living there. But India is giving constant, as such, neither the America is targeting them, nor any problem from the Iranian side for the Indian people. So it is just like any other citizen. And if they do not come out in open, and they do not come to the places where there is a call has been given that you come to such and such place, if the Indians are safe in their safe locations, then there is a very unlikelihood that they will be harmed, because as such, the intention of American or Israel is not there to target the population of Iran. They are always saying yes, and as has been told earlier, of course, after the attack on Iran, the population mood has changed. Otherwise, earlier they were against the IRGC regime. And as has been told by Mr. Peter, definitely President Trump was able to convince American population that Iran was making a missile, intercontinental ballistic missile, which was a threat to America also, and the nuclear bomb. And it was true also. You see, this North Korea being a very small country, all the time threatening America by the presence of a nuclear bomb. If Iran would have made a nuclear bomb, they have already enriched, and there is the 400 kg of enriched uranium, which is being 60% enriched, or now they say it has been enriched to 70%, and within very short period of time, this Iran can make a bomb. So definitely there was a kind of threat that America was facing, and openly Iran regime was saying the death to America.
Yes, but also let's not forget that Israel itself, although have not accepted it publicly, has nuclear warheads. And in fact, Israel continues to be the only country in the Gulf that has those nuclear warheads for its safety. Also, in wake of the very difficult relations it has held in the past, in history, with the Gulf nations. I think Iran itself finds itself in a very similar state in wake of a lot of enmity that it receives from the rest of the Gulf, being a Shia nation, and there have been so many complexities and complications in the relations between the rest of the GCC nations and Iran. Okay, and there would never have been an attempt made by United States of America if Iran was in fact a country that had nuclear arsenal. So anyways, I'm out of time. I thank you all for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views. I'll take a short break. Thanks for watching.